Hey, Mikey, I have a joke for you that really doesn't have much to do with this episode of Mr. Robin's Hood podcast.
So it's actually a joke, though? Can't
sort of
be a joke.
But I'm going to tell them anyway. So an 85-year-old grandfather was taken to the hospital. He had no memory and appeared to be suffering from brain damage. The doctor asked him a series of questions. Do you know where you are? The old guy responded, I'm at Rex Hospital. The doctor asked, what city are you in? The old man responded, I'm in Raleigh. The doctor was encouraged by the old man's answers, and then he asked, do you know who I am? The old guy responded, you're Dr. Hamilton. The old grandfather then turned to the nurse and said, I hope he doesn't ask me any more questions. Why? She asked. Because all of those answers were on his badge.
Well, I think the old man's quite the little genius.
Okay, that may have been a miss, but I've got another one. You ready?
I am.
If smoking marijuana causes short-term memory loss, what does smoking marijuana do?
Wait. Oh,
exactly.
What?
Hello, fellow memory fiends. It is I, the one and only Mr. Robin, your sleep-deprived co-host of Mr. Robin's Hood podcast. Coming to you digitally from the comfortable confines of Studio C, located within the throwing distance of a number one driver from hole number 2 of that always cracks me up, of the Woodward Municipal Golf Course.
You should have seen all the kitties on hole 2 today.
Yeah?
When I was driving up. Like, look at them little kitties. Hi, little kitties.
Get ready for another thrilling ride on our podcast. Let's be real, you know you can't resist. And joining me as always is my collaborative partner in production, known alternately as the empath, spiritual advisor, and driving force behind the Oklahoma Beatles Lovers Association, dedicated indefinitely, also known as Obla-D.
I like it.
And, of course, my all-around best pal, none other than Mikkel Murray Robinson, or known by her street name here on the mean streets of Northwest Oklahoma, Mikey on the mic. Give a big howdy to our audience of spiritualistic Beatles fans, Mikey.
Well, hello, all you party people. I didn't really know how to answer that. Although,
yes,
I found a dead beetle and I kept him.
Did you name him Ringo?
No.
Oh.
No. What if I wanted him to be Paul?
Oh.
What if he's Sir Paul, 62?
Sir Paul. Yeah. Hey, I just saw something that Paul McCartney is retiring.
Yeah.
You
can do that?
It won't last. He'll be back on the road.
Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, not everyone knows that occasionally Mikey will don a superhero cape and transform into a bartender extraordinaire at a local watering hole here in Woodward. She's hailed as the #1 cocktail queen west of I-35. But today, Mikey is nursing a bruised psyche after a soul-sucking $25 tip on a jaw-dropping $957.40 bar tab from a ravenous horde of 17 partygoers who nearly drank the bar dry of beer, booze, and there goes my screen. beer, booze, and enough frozen pizzas to stock an apocalypse bunker.
I burnt my thumb on that pizza machine.
Before we hit the record Before we hit the record button on this podcast, Mikey shared her tragic tale. I grinned like a Cheshire cat, danced behind the bar like my shoes were on fire, and poured shots like each one was the elixir of life.
I don't sound like that. This is not how I sound when I talk about stuff.
They even forced me to belt out happy birthday to a guy who looked like he'd rather be at the Oklahoma Tax Commission office with a raging toothache and 50 people in front of him. The merry band of revelers reportedly squatted at the bar for 5 hours, demanded pizzas as if they were negotiating the hostage release, and left Mikey a tip she best described as just enough to buy a therapy session with a sock puppet.
No, I was going to say, that's not even dropping a bucket on a therapy session. But yes, with that, okay.
Now Mikey's contemplating a career pivot.
Yeah.
Maybe to a part-time serene world of serving up soda and marginal pizza in a Chuck E. Cheese's, which she imagines would be less stressful and significantly less...
What is it?
Well, now Mikey's contemplating a career pivot. Maybe to the part-time serene world of serving up soda and marginal pizza in a Chuck E. Cheese's, which she imagines would be less stressful and significantly reduce encounters with bathroom floor art installations of vomit. Over to you, Mikey.
Well, okay, one, I would have to move to work at a Chuck E. Cheese because there isn't one within, 2-hour drive.
Well, that's what they're putting in over there at Schaefer.
They're not putting in a Chuck E. Cheese over there.
You'll see.
No, I have what I think is going on, but I'm not going to talk about it here because you know what? No, because your story is full of shit. Speaking of poo, we were talking about poo earlier. Anyhow, whatever.
Yeah, you people need to start listening to these podcasts.
Yes.
Even when it's controversial content.
Yes.
Just listen.
Just listen.
They're entertaining. They have something for you.
Oh, the person on the other side's like, click.
All right. We're going to head to our interview now. Welcome to episode 58 of Mr. Robin's Hood podcast that we're calling How Event Scripts Structure Our Personal Memories. And that's named for an article that appeared in a February 2025 edition of Quanta magazine, written by our guest today, Ingrid Wickelgren. Ingrid is an award-winning writer, freelance science journalist, and editor based out of New Jersey, with more than 30 years of experience writing and editing about the mind, brain, and all things biology and medicine. She specializes in long-form journalism, but also enjoys working on news, trends, profiles, and short features. Besides Quanta magazine, her work has appeared in Science, Health Business Week, The New York Times, Science News, Scientific American, Scientific American Mind, Popular Science, IEEE Spectrum, Discover, and Spectrum. She has also penned more than 85 science stories for Current Science, a magazine for middle school students. Welcome, Ingrid.
Thank you.
Did I leave anything out of your bio that you'd like to update?
No, that was pretty extensive. Thank you.
Okay. So we've asked you on here today to discuss that article that you published in the February 21st, 2025 edition of Quanta magazine, titled How Event Scripts Structure Our Personal Memories. And I'm hoping that you can start by just kind of telling us in lay terms what the science you reported on in your article is about, with the event scripts structuring our personal memories and how it impacts the day to day lives of people.
Yeah, sure. So, I think, one of the things that I think seems kind of intuitive about our memories is that,
Mhm.
if you have background on a subject, it's easier to learn more about that subject. If you're sort of
Sure.
struggling with sort of the you know the foundations, if you've never heard of something before, then it just takes a long time to get up to speed.
Uh-huh.
Um, and that's really for the kind of, for sort of the kind of memories that, for facts.
Mhm.
Um, but there's another kind of memory called episodic memory. And I think we take some of the background for granted when it comes to episodic memory. Episodic memory is basically our memories for our experiences. And I think, a lot of the basic knowledge, the knowledge about basic experiences, sort of that scaffold upon which then you sort of layer details and it's easier to learn, um, is something that is developed early in life. So you learn like what is the general sequence for a trip to the airport. Right? You
Yeah.
walk, you go through security, you walk to the gate, you get on the plane, these things, right?
Yeah.
Now, if this wasn't familiar to you, then when you go to the airport, you wouldn't remember a lot of details because you'd just be struggling to figure out, okay, what is this place? An airport? What's next? What am I doing? Like it would just be really confusing. So what happens is that when you build, when you've been to the airport a bunch of times, you build up this sort of scaffold in your brain, and that makes it a lot easier when you go to the airport to sort of remember that experience and any details, say, oh, that, some object was flagged at security or some annoying,
Mhm.
an annoying person sped ahead of you in line when you're getting on the plane or whatever. Um, and then you will remember those experiences much more easily. So what we do is we build these sort of library of scripts like the airport scene, or if we go to the library or you go to a restaurant. Um, or attending a wedding, all these things. We build our memories off of these scaffolds of what commonly occurs in those instances, and it
Okay.
makes it easier to kind of to learn what happens in
Mhm.
specific instances. Um, so and that's been something that psychologists have sort of um, hypothesized and thought about for a while. But what's really new in this article is that uh, researchers have now found the patterns in the brain um, by measuring when you go inside a what's called an fMRI machine. You can look at patterns of neural activity,
Right.
and they can see common patterns for each stage of, say, the an airport scene. So when people are watching the movies, different movies that all have airport scenes, there's the same pattern at each stage. So there's a pattern for security. There's a pattern for, um, you know, getting on the plane, right?
Mhm.
Um, and 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 he's been able. The researchers, in particular, this one researcher, Chris Baldessano, has been able to see patterns that are the same across people, which I just think is wild. That my airport sequence, no matter which movie I'm watching, right, it's the
Mhm.
same
Mhm.
as yours.
Right.
Um, in our brains, you can see the same kind of pattern of neural activity, which is kind of fascinating that we can see that. And then he's also found that the patterns do vary a little bit on how sort of many times I've been to the airport, right? You can sort of see um, you can see sort of better established patterns and less well established patterns. And the people with the sort of better patterns, I'll put it that way, because I think it's maybe a little hard to describe. Those people remember the details in these movies that he's shown them inside this machine, remember them better. So they remember the details. They have better memories of the movies. So it sort of shows that that these templates matter for memory.
And so what happens when, say, you have this structure in your head of, walking through the airport and, hitting each of these sort of milestones, if you will, checking in at the counter, checking your bags, going through security, going down to wait at the gate interminably as the plane is no doubt late. But
Right.
what happens if there's, say, something happens in between? I guess I'm trying to wrap my head around that. So that would throw off that pattern in your brain. If and I don't know what it would be.
Well, so yeah, go ahead.
No, but and I'm kind of I'm I'm thinking, and this is kind of a personal thing, but I'm thinking for myself. I used to travel a lot for the government, and there was one time, for instance, we were down in Buenos Aires for a conference, and there were what they later told us were Argentine separatists that set off a bomb in the lobby of the hotel where we were staying. And so I have just a little bit of PTSD because of that. And I guess I'm trying to think, okay, so if my memories, my memory patterns, if you will, are if you were to show people scenes, sitting around in a Buenos Aires hotel having breakfast, because that's what we were doing, theirs are going to be very different from my experience, I guess.
Yeah, but everybody's like experiences, those unique experiences. I don't know how you would show a video of those things and know that that person's been through that unless you had like a conversation.
Well, but
or like you went to, or maybe he is like, oh, I want to study this piece of that. And, you get what I'm saying? I feel like I'm not explaining it well, but I think you'd have to know, because this is just very kind of, black and white in a sense.
I think the so when you went to Argentina and went into a hotel, right?
Yeah.
You had certain expectations based on your experiences with
Correct.
hotels before,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
So you'd been to hotels.
Yep.
So you expected a certain sequence of events. And so when you went into the hotel and you checked in, you weren't completely baffled. I mean, there were differences in Argentina, I imagine. I've never been to Argentina, so I don't know what those would be. But you would be able to build off that expected sequence that was in your brain. If you didn't have any expected sequence whatsoever, everything would baffle you. Everything would be new,
Okay.
Yeah. So the unexpected is better remembered because you expect something to begin with, right? So you came in, it defied whatever sequence of events, it defied, your expectations. So it's now, I mean, something as dramatic as a bomb is going to stand out no matter what. But you will remember more details about an experience in a hotel in another country. If you have, if the events that are ordinary don't stand out for you.
Right.
But if everything stands out because you've never done that before, you don't know what a
Okay.
hotel is,
Yeah.
then it's harder for you're sort of baffled to begin with, right?
Yeah.
And you're just learning everything at once, and it's harder to sort of tack on the details of that particular experience.
Mm.
I think something like a bomb, would probably stand out no matter what. It's just scary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's a way of sort of explaining that we build memory off of templates. So instead of every time, it's more like sort of coloring in a coloring book where there's already lines rather than painting freeform.
Okay.
Yeah, and say he showed you a video of a hotel instead of the airport, it was a hotel. Yours may be different because of your experience, but how many thousands of people have had a normal hotel experience versus the one you had encountered? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that was just one of probably 1,000 hotels over the years. Yeah.
So it's
Right.
interesting because at some point I kind of think that it's almost like subconscious, these you don't think about that. These templates in your brain, the neuroactivity that's happening when you're moving through these normal things in life. I think it's fascinating that there was a study done on that because memory fascinates me. Everybody tells me I have a good memory. Not for everything by any means, but like birthdays and people's names and especially what they drink because I've worked in a bar so long. And they asked me, how do you remember that? And I have techniques that I use to remember it. Like I consciously try to remember these things.
Associated drink with
Yes.
a person.
Yeah. If that makes sense.
Yeah, and that that work. A lot of those techniques are work that when you sort of elaborate memories, right? So sometimes if I have to remember somebody's name, I'll try to think of somebody else that's named that, and I picture that person whom I know well, and I'm not going to forget their name. And then somehow, even if this person really has nothing really in common with that other person except the name, I still, in my brain, I've made it a little bit more complicated, and like I've connected it to other things, and it helps me remember. But in terms of this finding and the fact that people remember event sequences, which are sort of stories, they're parts of narratives, either, narratives that you might read or watch, or just your experiences, your life is kind of a narrative.
Right.
That's kind of your brain seems to have sort of been a little bit built to remember narratives. And as a consequence, one of the techniques that memory champions use is they try to build a narrative or a sequence from um, they try to layer facts or words or whatever they're trying to remember onto some kind of sequence or that they know well. So, some memory champions will, try to, if they have to, this one memory champion, Alex Mullen, can remember the sequence of cards in an entire deck.
Yeah. Right.
Like really quickly. I mean, he's perfected this, so this is a technique you can get faster at. But he tries to place each card associated with a location in a house that he knows well, and he pictures himself going through the house with each card. And apparently, all of us can try to remember things like word lists, which are hard. Like if you and I just have to memorize a list of 40 words, it's really difficult. But if you use a technique like that, for example, associating it with a sequence of events at a restaurant that you like, and just make connections between the words and the places, um, you can increase your ability to remember those words because it's just how the brain works. It's sort of built to remember narratives. So if you kind of make a list of words into a narrative, which is something you have to learn to do, right? It's a technique you have to practice. But once you're practiced, if you want to remember, a group of isolated facts or something that don't, then it's just you can kind of trick your brain into doing that in this way.
Yeah,
So
years ago, my parents thought a Dale Carnegie course would help me, and
I just sought the Dale Carnegie course out myself.
and I remember there was a very similar technique. They were trying to teach us. Yeah, listen to me. I can't even remember what it was exactly. They were trying to associate. It may have been his rules for winning friends and influence. I don't know. But there was, and I can remember the sequence. It was 1 run, 2 zoo, 3 tree, 4 door, 5 hive, 6 sick, 7 heaven, 8 gate, 9 wine, 10 den, and it kinda went on from that. And so you would take, like, 1 run, and it was a horse running a race with a monkey on its back. And somehow, you would associate maybe rule number 1 with that. I mean, is that kind of similar or?
yeah, it is similar. I think, and I think it does that. But sometimes, so for example, let's say you had to one of the words was waterfall, right? And you were trying to pin it through this restaurant sequence that you have in your head, right?
Okay.
You could picture a waterfall behind a restaurant, right? Another one is, if another word was mouse, maybe you picture you know seeing a mouse run across the room before you're, being,
Right.
before you eat, before the waiter comes. And or the word microscope, maybe you envision microscopically tiny food coming next. So
I gotcha.
it's sort of you it's similar, but on top of sort of these associations, you sequence the associations along this template for a familiar type of event. And that's how you do it, kind of make it into a kind of a weird, kind of a strange little story, I guess, right?
Well, I thought one of the things that was kind of interesting, and I kinda took this away from the article, when these people were laying in the MRI tubes, and they were somehow projecting, uh, like movie clips, is that
Yeah.
correct?
Yes.
And, maybe you could explain a little bit about what they were trying to do in there. I know that they were measuring, people's brain activity based on what they were viewing, and a lot of them had the same sort of patterns.
Yes. 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 So the whole idea, a lot of experiments in these MRI scanners in the past have been just very simple stimuli. So they'll show, a house, and then they'll show nothing, and then they'll compare the two, right? Try to keep it simple because the brain's complicated and you're measuring activity throughout the brain, and it's just, how do you? It's just, yeah. What do you? It's just so much data that they tried to keep the stimuli really simple. But one of the advances that is behind some of this work is people decided, hey, so we're not learning that much about the brain because these stimuli are not like real life, movies and action and sequences of events are more what we experience, like what we experience. So they just said, hey, let's try it. Let's try to show a movie in there and see, what the activity shows.
Mhm.
And in one of the early experiments, it was really cool because they just they put a they watched a bunch of people watched the same movie, and their brain activity kind of their patterns were really similar. They kind of waxed and waned at the same points in the movie, and that gave researchers hope that they might be able to make sense out of this, out of movie data. Um, and so from there, um, more this is, from there they the recent work on the templates was done by showing individual people very different movies, like
Mhm.
comedies, and I'd have to look at exactly what the movies were again, but some of them were comedies and some of them were, like thrillers or dramas or whatever
Huh.
they all had airport scenes. So the content was really different.
Okay.
But they showed them, could see the same pattern of events whenever there was an airport scene, even though the plots were very different and the
Mhm.
characters were different, and um and the details were different. So that's what they did. So people lay in the machine and they watched different movies that had airport scenes, and they looked for similar patterns.
Okay. Okay. And as I understand also from reading that article, this isn't exactly a new concept in science. I think that they had kind of sort of figured this out years ago, but nobody had a way of kind of proving it. And it's that what the fellow at Columbia,
Yes, Chris Baldessano. Right.
Baldessano. Mhm.
Yeah, he was able to prove it because he had he developed some new ways of analyzing the brain data.
Yeah.
So he used some mathematical models because he was a computer scientist.
Mhm.
And he brought some of that expertise from computer science um, into the analysis of fMRI data.
Mhm. Okay. Okay. And is there an let's see, is there like an end game in all this? I mean, how would you apply what they've learned in this research, and use it to, um, in maybe in some sort of neuroscience sort of interaction with patients or anything like that?
Yeah, so there's some indication that perhaps these templates do degrade to some extent in conditions like Alzheimer's disease, right? So if your templates kind of degrade, then
Yeah.
that would explain a lot of confusion, right? The world is a
Sure.
very confusing place, right? And I think also for kids, in development, when uh, teaching kids are often fascinated by these books that are very boring to adults because nothing really happens in them.
Yeah.
But they sort of go through familiar sequences of events, and kids really like that, I think, in part because it just helps them make sense of the world. They're sort of building up those templates, and I don't know, it's just sort of fascinating to think about. That's these how you're what you're doing when what you're teaching your kids when you read these books, and one of the
Mhm.
reasons why it might be valuable to them, or just explaining things when you go to the airport for the first time, and realizing that
Okay.
this is important knowledge for them.
Yeah.
So I think that that's another, I don't know, interesting kind of take home.
Uh-huh. Okay.
That is interesting. So it's been a really long time since I've been to an airport and flown in an airplane, but I did it when I was younger. So I wonder if my template has degraded a little just because I haven't done it in so long. You know what I mean? It makes me
Well, because the
wonder.
airports have changed, right? There'd be a few things, I think the fundamental things are similar, but there's a lot of stuff that's happened
Right.
recent, security in particular.
Sure.
Um,
Sure.
so yeah, it'd probably still work for most of it, though, I would think.
Oh. Huh.
But you'd probably be like, wow, um,
This is kind of a
they
new
made
thing.
me take out, they made me, take this out of my bag and put this, like that stuff might be more um, salient to you because your template, it would be more new, right?
Hmm.
From what you were expecting from before, whatever new measures they have enacted since you've taken an airplane.
Yeah, because I want to say it's been pushing 20 years since I've been.
Oh, yeah, that's a
Yeah.
long time.
I've been driving everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's almost as much for me. But I always tell people if you knew what I knew, you'd never get on another commercial flight. So, and we're not going to pursue that one.
No, but that's part of the reason I haven't, because you're not the only one that's told me that.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you coming on here today, Ingrid, and kind of delving into this a little more because it was absolutely eluding me.
Does it make more sense
It
now?
it does, and I think I was, as I typically do, I was trying to read too much into it and trying to, you know, overthink, I think.
That's just the scientific part of your brain doing
But
what it does, analyzing something
yeah, well,
to smithereens.
but there was one thing you mentioned that really kind of struck me, and that was that the templates as they degrade, say through Alzheimer's or even just basic dementia. Yeah, because I have lived with an adult who had Alzheimer's, and it's like nothing that they knew before is there.
There.
It's gone, or it's completely new to them, and so that was that really kind of hit home, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know to what extent they've been able to show that that's the case.
Uh-huh.
But it would make sense. And it's something that, I think is likely to happen. But I don't know the data where they've done those experiments in
Mhm.
people with Alzheimer's or other forms of dementia.
Mhm.
But it is a potential way of understanding um, those conditions.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because kind of the way that I saw it is they were just kind of regressing back to a child. It's like all those things that they learned throughout their life is just going away. Those
Yeah.
memories or templates are just not there,
Yeah.
and it's wild. But I think it'd
Yeah.
be interesting to do a study on that piece, particularly having people with those cognitive diseases watch those videos and do the same kind of loop he did with the general person. I think that would be very interesting to see the outcomes of those.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Hmm.
Be interesting to see to look at children too.
Yes, it would very
Yeah.
much be.
It would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed um the article. I feel like I kind of understood where you were going with it, but after talking to you, it's it makes so much more sense now,
Oh, good.
to sit here and talk with you about it.
Yeah.
So thank you for taking the time out of your day to do that with us.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sure.
thank you, both of you, for your interest in it. I really appreciate your thoughtfulness and talking to me about it today.
Mhm. Do you have anything coming up? What do you have anything you're working on that you can
Yes.
talk about?
So there is one thing I'm working on. I could talk about a little bit, but it's
Okay.
slightly technical. Um, uh, there, yeah, there is some new work on a kind of cell in the brain that is not a neuron,
Hmm.
that indicates that there is a lot of interesting communication going on with these cells. It's a type of what people once thought was kind of a support cell, but
Uh-huh.
they're called astrocytes. And there are a lot of astrocytes in the brain. They basically fill all the available space in the brain, or almost all the available space, with neurons. They kind of, and they each astrocyte connects to, I think, like 2 million neurons. So there's an enormous number of points of connection. And one of the interesting things is that they tend to, or neurons sort of transmit messages like wires.
Right.
Astrocytes seem to modulate neural activity over whole areas of the brain.
Uh-huh.
So what's interesting about that is that it's a whole nother type of processing that makes more sense if you're talking about mood disorders or sleep
Mhm.
problems, that it would be governed by a system that sort of regulates um, a large number of neurons, like turns their volume up or down at
Mhm.
once.
Wow.
Um, and so there's this whole kind of, I don't know, I think of it as sort of this sort of secret. It's not secret, but people don't recognize the role of astrocytes and uh, and some other neurons that are similar, not neurons, some other cells that are similar,
Uh-huh.
glia, the other types of cells that are called, the class of cells called glia.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, it's just interesting to me because people are looking at these as possible ways of better understanding and developing treatments for, psychiatric disorders.
Oh,
It's a whole area where, maybe the reason that we don't understand how a lot of the medicines that we have work is because we're just looking at neurons. Um, and just the whole idea of the whole word to me is like neuroscientist, right?
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like it's like that you think of that as being synonymous with brain scientists,
Mhm.
but or other neurons in the body. But I think of those of people study how the brain works, and yet just in the title of that, suggests that there's really only one type of cell we should be paying attention to. So anyway, there's some new research out on these types of cells and how they signal. And so I'm going to write a story about that.
Well, good. Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much for joining us today. And let's see, you have a website, www.ingridwickelgren.com. And for those who are quickly trying to write that down, it's INGRIDWICKLEGREN.com.
Yes,
And
except it's EL, not LE.
you know what? I did that the last time we did this.
Really?
I think
A
so.
lot of
Because I remember you kind of correcting me on that. Okay, so don't listen to Mr. Robin, listen to Ingrid. She knows what She knows
She
how to
knows.
spell
She
her
knows how
name.
to spell her name. Yeah.
I know how to spell my name.
Good.
I got that one down.
Okay. All right. So, Mikey, this has been an informative and interesting episode of this podcast. Don't you agree?
I always agree, which is a lie. But yes, I agree, Mr. Robin. Yes.
That's another great podcast in the books and on the air.
Actually, it was, though.
Yeah. No,
Okay.
and
I was being a little sarcastic,
we've
but everything
had
was.
we've had Ingrid on here before, and she's
Mhm.
always just a very knowledgeable and interesting person to talk to. So
Absolutely.
we'll see if we can get her back on, maybe to talk about that others.
Yeah, what the little drop of what she's working on was very interesting. So maybe we
We'll
can
have to keep an eye out for that.
rope her into talking more about that when she busts out that article and we read it and are confused by it and have to be like, Ingrid, we need you. Support us. This is free promo right now. It makes us funnier, I swear.
If you have any questions for either Mikey or myself about today's episode or any other darn thing, you can email us at mr.robin@mrrobinshood.com or Mikey at mrrobinshood.com. Also, you can find us on Facebook at Mr. Robin's Hood Podcast. As always, you can also reach out to Mikey or me via Podophone at 580-827-0472. And by the way, that number should be appearing at the bottom of this screen. Maybe you just want to get something off your chest, or you're feeling some butt pain because of something we said during a podcast, give us a call. You can leave a voicemail. Text us if you have a question, concern, complaint, compliment, suggestion, whatever. Just don't be a dick about it.
Or do. It's fun. It's fun when you're all dicks.
Yeah, we really enjoy that. But again, no nude pics, because she takes them down to the bar and passes them around.
I would never do that. That's not something I do. Whatever. No, I just show them to Mr. Robin. I'm like, look at this. Look at this.
As always, you can stream or download episodes of Mr. Robin's Hood podcasts wherever you usually find that sort of nonsense. We're on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, the Podbean app, Apple Podcasts, and Podchaser. You can also stream them directly from our Podbean website at mrrobinshoodpodcast.podbean.com, also at the bottom of your screen, for free. And I haven't been talking lately about our YouTube channel, but we have one.
We do.
You can find us by searching for Mr. Robin's Hood Podcast on the YouTube site. That'll play big when we start doing video podcasts. But for now, as always, we'll sign off by reminding you
to stay hungry, stay foolish, and most importantly, be weird. Bye.
Bye.